In this tabletop review, I'm going to be unboxing and discussing yet another lower receiver for the AR15. This is the Seekins Precsion SP223 Billet lower receiver. This is their Gen 2. Several years back, I did a review of the Gen 1 version of this. They've updated it. This has been out for a while. It's taken me a while to get around to doing a review of it. I've built numerous AR-15s using these lower receivers. I really like them. They are quite expensive though. You know, you're talking around, give or take, $245 for these. I like a lot of the features that come with these billet receivers, and we'll talk about that. These are marked multi-caliber. They're anodized black. Of course, they're 70-75 T6 aluminum. This is ambidextrous, and it includes an ambidextrous release lever for the bolt. It is billet. Pin diameters are 0.154. Pivot pins are 0.250. Those are all standard. This is the Seekins Precision box that this ships in. Nothing real special there. It's just a plain white box. Let's get this out and get it to stand up. All right. There's just some bubble wrap in the box, and of course there's an 8.5 by 11 instructional sheet that discusses how to adjust the myriad of different adjustment screws and set screws that come in this billet lower receiver. Now, once we start jumping up into this type of billet lower receiver design, you are looking at the top tier of AR-15 lower receivers. These things have a lot of added functionality built into them. Some of the designs can get really wild. If you've seen any of the Spike's tactical designs, it's just crazy with what manufacturers are doing with their billet lower receivers. But you pay a lot of money for those bling options. I like bling, but I don't like paying $400 for a lower receiver either. This one is actually much more reasonable. It's over double what a standard forged lower receiver is going to run you. Most standard forged lower receivers are right around the $70, $80 range, and you know, if you jump into like an Anderson, you can get those for $40, $45. So those are probably the cheapest forged lower receivers that I'm aware of that are of quality. So what do we get with this? As you can see right off the bat here, we've got a very a unique design. We've got this curvature cut down here on the magwell. The magwell, of course, is got a heavy bevel to it for ease of insertion of mags. You have an integrated winter type trigger guard with holes cut through it, and this is more for cosmetic purposes. Some people consider these integrated trigger guards a negative because people like to put colored trigger guards on there or change different sizes and so on. I don't mind an integrated trigger guard myself, as long as the integrated trigger guard is what would be considered a winter trigger guard, so you can use this with big thick gloves. So that's good. This Seekins Precision lower receiver is what is called a no logo lower receiver. Normally they'll put their big logo right here. This one does not have it. It has a small logo here. And you've got the Seekins Precision roll marks right here. The selector lever markings you've got for 3-position, safe fire and select fire, although this is not a select fire lower receiver, but the markings are there. This does come with a very nice bolt release pre-installed, and if we go around to the other side, you can see that this is an ambidextrous bolt release, and it comes all pre-installed. To install your lower parts kit, you actually have to go and remove this. because when it comes down to doing your magazine release down here, you're going to have to remove this to do your magazine release. Now, one of the other features of this lower receiver is, let's see, they've eliminated the use of roll pins. So normally you have a roll pin down here on the trigger guard, and since the trigger guard is integrated, there's no roll pin. And what a lot of people have problems with is installing the roll pin right here for your bolt release. Now what they've done is they've replaced this with a custom screw-in dowel pin. And it appears to be exactly that. On the other side here, on the other side here, you can see, you can see that it's not even machined all the way through. So it's only machined partway through right there. I will partially remove that so you can see that it's a threaded dowel pin. That's assuming I have the right Allen key handy. It's too big. And this particular tool I'm using is probably not ideal for this. Yeah, it's actually hitting up against the lower receiver. I'll have to do that later. I don't have the right Allen key here in front of me that will work for this, but it does take an Allen key and it is threaded. So very nice feature right there. Makes it real easy to remove this, take this off, and install your mag release. On the bottom of the lower receiver, you can see we have two set screws here. This particular lower receiver comes with a integrated trigger slack set screw. So once you install your trigger, you can adjust this screw. It will move upwards, push up on your trigger, and you can dial out the slack in your trigger, or your creep, or your whatever you want to call it, your pre-travel. How that would work is once your trigger's installed, you would basically tighten down this screw until your selector lever does not move. And then you back it off about a half a turn, check your selector lever to make sure that it's moving freely, and that is your adjustment. And then you'll notice that you have virtually no creep in your trigger anymore. So that's a very nice feature. In some of my other videos, you'll see me addressing that feature with a pistol grip screw or a set screw that goes in this hole, and that will accomplish the same thing. But with this lower receiver, you don't need to buy another part. Now, right over here, assuming we got this in focus, right over here is another set screw, and this set screw is basically allows you to adjust or dial out the wobble between your upper and lower receiver. So this is integrated as well. And if we look inside, so we can see this inside. Let's see. Focus. Okay. Inside, you can see right down there what appears to be the set screw, and that has a little green nylon tip on it, because that's going to probably push up on your takedown pin. So the little nylon adjustment tip on it is real nice, so it doesn't gouge up your takedown pin. And further down inside, right down in there is, you can see the tip of the trigger set screw, the trigger adjustment set screw. So that comes all the way through as well. The front of the lower receiver has a textured finish. I know a lot of people like to grip their firearm by the magwell here, so Seekins has added some dimpling on this to aid in gripping it in that location. On the back on the back here, you'll notice that there is no hole right there for a rear takedown pin detented spring. What Seekins has done is they've relocated that to underneath the pistol grip, and you'll see, hopefully you can see it, you'll see right here there's a small set screw, and you remove this set screw, drop in your detent and then your spring, and of course I believe you need to trim the spring down just a smidgen. Let me refer back to their installation sheet here. They say the included 440 set screw, and that uses a .050 Allen wrench. It's super small, so be prepared. This does not come with any Allen wrenches, so you'll need that super small Allen wrench to access the 440 set screw. It says count up 3 to 5 coils off of the flat of the lower receiver, then cut the spring. And that is because most of your detent springs are going to be too long for use in this location as well as use with the set screw. So Seekins provides you clear, concise instructions on how to utilize all of these set screws, okay, what do they refer to this? I'm calling them set screws. They refer to these as jam screws. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I use some of their terminology. Very nice feature here. I have used this location here. It does work, and it works just fine. You just have to remember you're going to need to trim down your detent spring accordingly, following Seekins instructions. The finish on this, as mentioned, is the standard black anodized finish. This back side of the lower receiver, also there's no logo on this side, with a small logo here. The part number, made in the USA, Seekins multi-caliber, and you've got some roll marks for your selector lever. The also right here, this rear takedown pin location, it's actually has a recess, so your takedown pin sits a little bit flusher in the lower receiver. Not all lower receivers provide you that enhanced recess. The finish, the flaring on the magwell down here is excellent, just like every other Seekins lower receiver I've used. I've not had any type of fitment issues with lower parts, assuming the lower parts are mil-spec lower parts. Moving on to the top, the ambidextrous bolt release, is the secondary part of the bolt release is right here, and that's held in place with another stainless steel set screw right there. That can be removed, so you can remove this. There's a spring in there. The interior of this is nicely finished. The receiver, there's no machining marks. The threading back here for your buffer tube is very good. I've threaded a couple different buffer tubes into this. It fit fine. The buffer retainer pin fits fine with the spring. I test fitted a selector. No problems with fitting of trigger pins, as well as takedown pins. So top-notch product from Seekins Precision. I'm very impressed with this. I can't say I really like the price of it. Most of these added features you get with this, you can add to a standard forged lower. You can buy an Anderson forged lower for $40 or so, $45, somewhere in that price range. And you can put an ambidextrous bolt release on it. You can do an ambidextrous mag release, or you can do a mag release, or excuse me, there are ambidextrous mag releases that you can install. All of those items are, they're $30 to $50 each, so it does add up. If you're going to, for example, do a ambidextrous bolt release like this, you're looking at around $50. If you ran a Magpul Magpul BAD lever, then it's a little bit cheaper to do. And then of course all of these custom set screws, you can pretty much accomplish all of those same solutions with other lower receivers if you buy additional parts. So this one basically takes all of the tuning capabilities that people have come up with over the years and put it all into a very nicely machined billet lower receiver that's got a nice look to it. And you're going to pay a little bit more for it. I'm planning on in the near future to build this out into a rifle, and I of course will do a video build of that as well. And so you can see how everything is adjusted and how well it works. So this is going to wrap up the video for the Seekins Precision SP223 Gen 2 unboxing and tabletop review.